So I've zoomed in a little bit further and it looks okay. And it's going to hold up a lot better when it's further away. But I think we can do better than this. Another thing that you can also do is you can add a subdivide SOP, which is the same as smoothing in Maya. So we can add a subdivision level of 1, and I can view from there. And you can see that subdivided our leaf. So if I take a screenshot, then we've got more subdivided leaves. It looks a lot better. But still, I'm not happy with the quality of these textures. And I think we can push this to the next level. What we're also going to do is we're going to create a more advanced shader, more advanced leaf shader that has a front and back side, which is going to add even more variation. So what we're going to do is we're going to jump into Photoshop. We're going to process some textures. We're then going to go back into SpeedTree, update our mesh with the new textures, re-export that mesh back in, and then we're going to build up a nice realistic leaf shader. Let's take a look at the textures I downloaded from textures.com. So Digital Assets Library, I put this in Textures, Leaves, 3D Atlas 0389, which is the name of the texture. I create 3 folders, one for my Photoshop files, processed images that we use in the 3D software package, and unprocessed images, which are the raw images downloaded from textures.com. Okay, so we've got our diffuse. And the way this works is that this is the front leaf, and this is the back leaf, or the back side of the leaf. And then you have 3 different variations. So front, back, front, back, front, back. For this course, we're only going to be using this first leaf variation here. We've also got a normal map and a SSS or translucency map. So let's open up Photoshop. I'm going to drop the albedo in, like so. I'm going to drop the normal in, click enter, drop the translucency in. And from these 3 maps, we're going to create the diffuse front and back, the alpha, the normal front and back, the translucency front and back, and the roughness front and back. And I might as well show you guys that, the result that I got. So we've got the alpha, diffuse back, diffuse front, normal back, rough front, SSS amount, front and back, SSS color front and back. It also means that you save yourself a little bit of money as well, because you can generate the roughness map from the diffuse map. Okay, so from this, double click on the background. We will right click, rasterize each of these layers so we can edit them. Let's do some cropping. We'll crop this entire image because we only need the 2 here. Go to the crop tool, make sure your setting is set to width and height times by resolution, and we'll just scale that in. I'm just looking for sort of equal spacing either side of the leaf. Yeah, I think something like that is fine. Click enter to crop. What we need to do now is we need to create a selection around the leaf. And I want the selection to sort of start right where that stem starts. Right about there, that's fine. I wouldn't leave any spacing below that, as this is where the leaf will start to grow from the branch, so you don't want any space. If I click plus on the, or hold down shift, and this gives me a plus sign, and then I can grow the selection. So I'm just going to grow that a little bit taller. Something around there. That looks fine. And what I'm going to do so we can store this selection here, so we don't lose it, is I'm going to create a new layer, and I'm going to fill that layer with black. Paint bucket, fill it with black. That means that I can click on this image, control click on it, and then we've got that selection. We can hide that black box. I'm going to control copy. We'll start with the diffuse, why not? Control copy the diffuse here. So control copy, control N to create a new document based on the width and height of our selection there, which is 1019 by 1867. Create that, paste. Go up to the normal, control copy, control V for paste. Turn on the translucency, control copy, control paste. So this is the front of our leaf. So this will be diffuse front. This will be normal front. Translucency color front. Okay, so the front leaves are copied over. Now we need the back leaves. I'm going to go to the move tool. I'm just going to move that. I'm not sure whether it's going to let me do that, is it? No, it's not. Okay, so we're going to move the box here. So Control D to deselect and go out. I'm going to move the box downwards. I'm holding Shift as I'm doing this to move it down in a straight line. And I'm moving that box down right to where that stem starts. Right by there. That's cool. We can Control left click to get the selection back. We can start with the diffuse first of all. So Control copy, Control paste, Control copy the normal, Control paste the normal, Control copy the translucency, Control paste the translucency. Rename these ones to the back. And what I like to do is I like to put these in their own folders just to keep things nice and neat. Like that. Like so. I think what I'll do is I'll keep these together as well. So we got the diffuse, we got the normal front and back. And I'm actually going to move the diffuse up to the top, I think. Like this. Whoops. Just like this. I put the fronts up on top of the backs, so it's nice and readable. Okay, so let's just view the front versions first. So they're all nicely aligned, but we've got a problem. If we try to add these to a shader, they're not aligned. So we got this issue. So what we need to do now is on the back versions, we're going to flip them. So I'm going to press Control T to bring up my scaling tools. And I'm going to go to right click and flip this horizontally. And that gives us that. The only problem is it's not completely aligned yet. I'm actually going to move the diffuse back onto the top so we can see this. I'm going to drop down the opacity, and on the diffuse back, I'm going to scale it, Control T, Just rotate this like that. Even a little less there. Just getting that angle parallel. And then we can shift this into place. And this does take a little bit of nudging to get it right. And it's never going to be completely perfect, but you can get it pretty close. Just checking the outline as well. Yeah, I think that's looking okay. That's looking cool. Let's do the next ones. I'll put the back on top of the front there so we can see what's happening. Let's drop this down. Let's flip it, Control T, flip it horizontally. They're lining up. Move this into place. And thinking about it now, you probably could select all three of the backs and do them at the same time. But I just want to be sure that these are fully aligned. Zooming in. Like I said, it is a bit of a nudging game. Trying to get this right. Turn that down. We're a little bit off there. Shift that back up. Something around that. Yeah, I think that's looking pretty good. Yeah, I think that's fine. That was cool. Turn these ones off to the normal. Put the back on top of the front so we can see it. Let's turn this one down. Control T, flip it horizontally. Control T, rotate it. Shift them into place. That one's looking pretty good. Looking at the top as well. Yeah, I think that looks good. Okay, cool. So we've correctly aligned all these. And now what we want to do is we want to generate a roughness map. And the way I usually do this is by using the diffuse maps. So let's copy the diffuse front. I'm going to turn all these off. So I'm holding down Alt and left clicking, drag it to the top, it creates a copy. We'll call this rough or roughness front. Turn it on inside the folder, and this is why I create the folders. Click on the diffuse front here. I'll call this rough. That's front. I'll first of all go to black and white, so we're converting this to a black and white map. I'll then go to levels. And I just want to lift up those levels because currently they're really black. And like we said before, anything that's like super black is going to be really glossy and shiny. So I'm just going to lift up those black levels a little bit. Introduce more contrast here. Like that. And remember, we can always use the RS change range to remap these values in Redshift, so they don't have to be 100% accurate here. But I think overall that's looking pretty good. Bring those white levels out a little bit. Get a nice level of contrast, and the rest we can do in Redshift. I'm going to copy these two levels here. So that one's done. Let's take the diffuse back, we'll put it up to the top. Name this to roughness back. Paste those levels. Turn the folder on, and we'll adjust these levels once again. So right now this stem is super white, and that's going to mean that these veins will be 100% rough, and we don't want that. Let's turn that right down. And usually the back side is a little bit rougher than the front side. So if we want more roughness, we make it whiter. There you go. And the rest we can mess around with in Redshift later using the RS change range. Let's rename that to roughness copy. Or roughness back, sorry. And so we've done the normal. We've done the translucency color. Let's do the translucency amount. Let's do the front one first. Let's shift that all the way up to the top. Turn it on. Let's copy these levels from the roughness maps. Paste them in there. Revert all these settings back to what they were. And when it comes to translucency, 0 means there's no backlighting, 1 means there's 100% backlighting. So the whiter these levels get on the leaf, the more backlighting we get. And we also want to have contrast as well. I think that looks fine. We'll rename this to translucency amount front. Turn it off. Shift the back one right up to the top. Turn it on. Copy these levels from the translucency amount. Paste them. Looks like this one needs to be remapped just a touch. It's looking a little bit washed out. Just going to turn those levels off for now. Just see what we're doing. Okay. Okay, that's not working too well for me, that one. And that's because the opacity is down. I was thinking there's something really weird with that going on. Just make sure on all of these that the opacity is set to 100%. So on here we need to turn this one back up, and I'd go through these layers, all of them, just make sure they're all set to 100%. 100, 100, yeah, it's fine. 100, yep. Yeah, they're looking alright. Let's copy that levels back. Thought I was going mad for a moment. Just make those details really stand out. And I don't want the stems going too dark. We still want a little bit of backlighting coming through on the stems, but not as much as the rest of the leaf. So if those stems go black, we're going to receive no backlighting. I think something around that is fine. Double click on the background, trash it, don't need it. We can get rid of this. We don't need that anymore. And I'm going to go to File, Save As, Photoshop. I've already done one before. I'm going to create this V02, so I can always go back to it. Wait for that to save. Turn all these off, apart from the normal front. And we're going to go to File, Save As, well processed. We can save these out as PNGs, TIFFs, TJs, whatever. I'm going to create a folder called V2 because I've already created a load of them. And I'm going to save this out as 3D Atlas 0389 underscore normal front .png, and I'll let you guys save the rest of these files out. And one last thing I forgot to discuss was generating an opacity map from the diffuse texture. So I'll turn everything off, I think, apart from the, let's have a look, the diffuse back. I think that's fine. We'll copy this, we'll move it all the way up to the top. And we'll call this alpha. Let's drop down a levels, I think. We just want to boost these levels up. Like that. Yeah, I think that's fine. Let's take this quick selection tool. I can press the brackets on the keyboard to go up and down with the brush. And I'm just going to start selecting the leaf. I'm holding Shift to add selection. I'm holding Alt to remove from the selection. Like that. Let's zoom in. Make the brush smaller. Just left clicking there. Not holding anything on the keyboard. Alt to remove. Left click to add. I'm just going to go all the way around this. And this opacity map is available with textures.com. But this does save you a little bit of money just processing this yourself and creating an alpha. And it's one thing I didn't mention, that it's really important with leaves and anything that's using opacity mapping to have a color underneath the leaf, such as this background here, the same color as the leaf. Otherwise, if you had, for example, a white background behind it, you'd get sort of like a white fringing around the leaf in your 3D software package when you're rendering, and it looks really bad. So always a good idea to have a similar shade of color to the leaf as the background. I think the first time around I did this a little bit faster. It seems quite slow. And if you have a faster way to do this method, then definitely use it. This is just one of the ways that I do it. Let's go in here. This quick selection brush is actually really good. It doesn't need to be absolutely perfect. You just need to get a decent selection around the leaf. Oh, I clicked something then that my computer really didn't like. I'm using spacebar and left clicking to sort of move around. Almost there. And just remember after this step that you'll need to convert these textures to the ACES color space using the same techniques that we used earlier. You know, if any of the textures are slightly too dark, grade them up, then add the OCIO conversion after the grade. But I'm sure you guys know that already, because I've trained you well. Okay. Maybe get this in here as well. Oops. Alt left clicking in there. Yeah, that's looking alright. Yeah, that looks cool from what I can see. We'll create a new layer. Put this right at the top. And we'll fill it with white. Paint bucket. Fill it with white. Like that. We'll also drop a layer beneath it. And we'll fill this layer with black. Let's delete the diffuse back and those levels. We don't need them anymore. There you go. We've got our alpha. Let's save that out as a PNG. Process v2. Alpha. Back in SpeedTree. Let's select that single leaf that we're going to replace with our texture. On the material tab, we'll click import new material. I'm in the processed textures folder, which we just created, and we're going to load in the diffuse front. In the opacity slot, we'll load in the alpha, like so. We can load in the normal as well, though this doesn't really matter. It's just taking up more of my time by loading this stuff in when I don't really need it. Let's just boost up that texture so we can see it. Okay, so whenever you replace the materials, our mesh is changing. I'm switching to Control 2 to view it. So our mesh is changing, so we're going to have to go back and we're going to have to do this edit option again and re-edit this. So we just shift that back into place. Like so. Sort of on the thirds of the image. If you need to delete, you can click this X, go over it, click back. Let's lower that one. Create one here, and one there, I think. It's looking right. Send it over. And damn, that really annoys me when it does this. That's really annoying. Send that back over. Under the materials, make sure you've got it assigned. Cool. Control 1 again. And I'm just going to mess around a little bit with the orientation. So we're going to drop down the fold. I don't want as much folding. I don't mind a little bit of it, just not too much. Let's check out that curling. Yeah, something around that looks pretty good. Looks a little bit flat and boring, but this is going to look a lot better in the 3D program. I'm going to set that to 0, and then I'll set the variance to something like 0.25. Maybe 0.35. Yeah, that's looking all right. I'm going to save this out. So export selected as mesh. And I'm going to save it out as leaf single curled atlas. Let's replace that. I've already done one before. So you guys are more than welcome to skip this stage. But I'm going to run through the texture conversion again. So our texture is way too dark. And that means that we need to grade this up. Just keep grading it. So the way I gauge this, as I said earlier, is I sort of gauge it as if it was like a nice well-lit day that this image was taken on. Something around that is fine. Maybe still just a touch too dark there. Yeah, I think around there, that's fine. I think same will apply for the matte material, although we should be careful about these whites getting too hot. They're getting dangerously hot there. Yeah, that's all right. Fine. Usually the translucency ones are fine, but I think they could do with a grade anyway. So as always, we're grading as if it was a nice lit day. What's going on here? Doesn't seem to like that, does it? There to there. I think we may have just edited the wrong one. Okay, there you go. Let's double click on it. Drop that down. I think that seems about right to me. Yeah, it's okay. Copy and paste. This one seems a little bit lighter, so it might mean we need to drop the gamma down just a touch, or the gain. Yeah, that's looking all right. This will be the same case. Yep. View from the grade. So you can see that it's way too bright. Yeah, these are fine. Paste that. Way too dark, way too dark. Let's boost that right up. Even lift up the gamma, I think. think that's looking a bit better. Although our levels are going very white there. So we just need to watch out for that. Copy and paste onto here as well. Just looking at these white values. Yeah, they seem to be fine. Let's check our values here as well. Yeah, they're all right. Values there are fine. Just watching out for any blowouts. Yeah, I think they're all okay there. Let's drop down some write nodes and we'll write this out. So in the same folder, create one called aces CG. And this will be called 3D Atlas. Paste it. Use front underscore aces cg.exr. Like so. Let's render that. Copy, paste, diffuse back, render, copy, paste. This is our trans color front. That, copy that, paste it. Aces cg.exr. Render. Trans color back. Render. Check I got that right. Trans color front, trans color back. Yeah, that's fine. And trans amount front. Check we got that right. The front one, yep. Trans amount back. Nice. Paste. Roughness. Roughness. Roughness front. Cool. And roughness back. And that is all of our Atlas textures converted. I'll also save this scene as Atlas underscore V001. Let's close that down.